Hi everybody. Today we're going to demonstrate Fortinet Secure SD-WAN running version 7.0. What we see here is FortiManager, which is the single pane of glass centralized management / SD-WAN orchestration platform. Before we go further in our demo, I want to quickly show our demo environment, which consists of a data center as well as 9 branches worldwide. First of all, in version 7.0, we expanded upon our provisioning templates. So now, in addition to SD-WAN templates, you now have BGP templates and IPsec templates, and you can now also group them all into a template group so that they can be pushed down to any number of devices. This greatly simplifies the zero-touch provisioning process. Now onto SD-WAN templates. SD-WAN templates are where most of the SD-WAN configuration is done. So what we have here are a couple of SD-WAN templates for our branch offices, and today we're going to just look at the branch template. Fortinet Secure SD-WAN consists of 3 major components. Number 1 are the SD-WAN interface members, and this can consist of underlay transports or overlay SD-WAN tunnels. You can obviously group them into different zones. So in our environment, we have an underlay zone, and we've also created an overlay zone. This is really helpful when dealing with firewall policies regarding SD-WAN. Next are performance SLAs, which are health checks that determine whether an SD-WAN member is meeting SLA thresholds. As you can see, the solution provides the flexibility for you to create health check targets that are internal for internal WAN traffic, or external for DIA or direct internet access traffic, for example, to SaaS applications. A couple things I like to point out. One is that we support both IPv4 and IPv6. In 7.0, you can not only use active probes, but also passive measurement. Passive measurement basically derives the latency, jitter, and packet loss from the actual application flows themselves. And there's also prefer passive mode that uses both active and passive health measurements. In 7.0, we've expanded on this list to include DNS as well as FTP. You can set your health check targets, specify which SD-WAN members participate in this health check, and you can specify health check thresholds as well. So in our example, we have a target of 170 milliseconds of latency, 100 milliseconds of jitter, and 5% packet loss. You could have multiple targets per performance SLA. And one last thing to point out is that the interval determines the frequency in which the probes are sent out. In our example, and the default value is 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. Okay, now moving on to SD-WAN rules. This is pretty much where the SD-WAN traffic engineering magic happens. Let's go take a look at our Office 365 rule really quick. Okay, so a few things to point out here. We support both IPv4 and IPv6. You can also use user identity as criteria for steering. So you could create rules for individual users or user groups. So for example, an SD-WAN steering rule for the finance department or another rule for the marketing department. This is very useful to have. In terms of steering destination, we support both traditional addresses as well as applications, and we have 2 distinct application identification databases. One is the Internet Service Database, and one is the Deep Packet Inspection Application Control Database. All in all, we identify over 5,000 plus applications, including very specialized industrial use apps. We can also create custom applications. So if you have your own application, you can create signatures around that and use them for SD-WAN steering purposes. In terms of SD-WAN steering strategy, we have 4 core strategies, starting from manual, which is pinning an application to one or more SD-WAN members. Or if you want the SD-WAN to select the best performing path automatically, you can use best quality. You can also specify what the deciding quality criteria is. So whether it's latency, jitter, packet loss, available bandwidth, or a weighted profile of all of the above. If you want prioritized SD-WAN steering, you could simply use lowest cost. So the SD-WAN will always choose the path with the lowest cost. For example, if port 1 has a cost of 5 and port 2 has a cost of 10, the SD-WAN will always choose port 1 as the preferred path as long as it's meeting SLA. So you select an SLA threshold over here, and in our example we're going to use SAS servers, and you could see that it has a threshold of 170 milliseconds of latency, 100 milliseconds of jitter, and 5% packet loss. Okay. If you want to load balance your application traffic across multiple SD-WAN members, you can do that as well. For example, if we had 4 SD-WAN members here, then all of our Office 365 traffic will be evenly distributed through our 4 SD-WAN members. If you have more, it'll distribute it amongst more, as long as they are meeting SLA. So again, you have to choose an SLA target for all the ports to meet. Okay, moving on. One last thing to talk about over here is that the solution also supports forward error correction and packet duplication, like we see here. These are very useful WAN remediation techniques that can help recover from errors in transmission or packet loss, and it's especially useful for voice and video traffic. Next, I want to show how easy it is to add security inspection to our SD-WAN. So to do that, simply go to Policy and Objects and bring up your Internet Access Policy, which we have here. A couple things to point out, starting with FortiOS 7.0, the solution now supports ZTNA, and you can configure that directly from Firewall Policy. And if you wish to inspect your SD-WAN traffic, simply check the Security Profiles box and select a profile for each individual security layer that you wish to enable. To do SSL inspection, the solution supports both certificate inspection as well as deep SSL inspection, where traffic is decrypted and the payload is inspected for threats. All you need to do now is to click OK, and we're done. There's no need to add a separate security solution or to send all of your traffic to the cloud for inspection. It's that easy. Before we move on to reporting and analytics, I want to point out that FortiManager can not only manage security and SD-WAN, but also switches and APs and extenders, which makes it perfect for SD branch deployments. Finally, let's take a look at the analytics and reporting capabilities of Fortinet Secure SD-WAN. You'll see here that this is a global dashboard that has all of our SD-WAN sites. They are color-coded for ease of identifying troubled sites. If you see green at a particular site, that means all the SD-WAN members are meeting SLA. If it turns orange, that means one or more SD-WAN members are not meeting SLA. And if a site is displayed in red, as we see here, that means that a particular link is down. You can hover over any particular SD-WAN member and it will bring up some very useful real-time metrics. Now, if you want to drill down into a particular site, simply go to Table View and click on the site that you want to look at. As you can see, there are a lot of useful metrics and charts on this page, which range from SD-WAN health to the amount of bandwidth that's being consumed by each SD-WAN member. In FortiOS 7.0, we added the capability to display the current preferred path for each SD-WAN rule. You'll notice a green check mark next to the SD-WAN member that's currently being preferred. You can also hover over that interface and bring up more details, as well as a real-time snapshot of latency, jitter, and packet loss. Moving down, there are charts on the amount of bandwidth being consumed. If you scroll down even further, you get performance SLA charts, which display latency, jitter, and packet loss for each of our performance SLA health checks. And this is very useful when troubleshooting networking issues. For more analytics, you can also go to FortiView. FortiView contains real-time analytics for both security and SD-WAN. For SD-WAN, go to Monitors and Secure SD-WAN Monitor. The SD-WAN Monitor contains many useful charts. Here's one for SD-WAN bandwidth use, one for SD-WAN performance, and my personal favorite, the SD-WAN rules utilization chart. This chart displays the selected SD-WAN paths that application flows use. There's also a chart for top SLA issues, as well as ones for performance SLAs. For a network-wide summary, go to SD-WAN Summary. Here you can find charts on overall SD-WAN health. So if there are any major alerts from our sites, they will be displayed here. If you have SLA issues, they will be displayed here. And you also have charts for the top applications that are flowing through your SD-WAN, as well as how much bandwidth each site is consuming in aggregate. Finally, for reports, the solution features a powerful reports engine with pre-built SD-WAN reports. You also have the ability to create your own report templates using the very comprehensive chart, macro, and dataset libraries. For SD-WAN reports specifically, you can go to the Secure SD-WAN report. And a couple things to point out, there is an editor where you can customize the report to your preferences. Now let's take a look at the generated report, and you'll see that there is a ton of information in this particular report. Hope this has been helpful, and thanks for watching.